Greenhouse gas emissions feature prominently at COP28 as African leaders address conference. Plus, federal government expects crash in food prices following bumper harvest by farmers. President Bola Tinubu has renewed the commitment of Nigeria to critical steps towards a reduction of methane emission globally. The Nigeria's president was one of the world leaders who spoke at a session in the methane emission reduction efforts on day 2 of the World Climate Action Summit in Dubai. President Tinubu acknowledged the damage done to the earth by methane emissions and commended the measures being taken collectively towards climate action. He informed the gathering that Nigeria is consolidating on domestic gas usage and export as part of commitment to energy mix and reduction of carbon emissions.
We are committed to energy mix. We are providing cooking gas for a large population. We will continue to do that. We've signed off on reduction of methane. We will leverage on new technology, and we hope the two giant nations and the Emirates will be able to help us through. And the largest economies that have benefited immensely should do more real fast, because the health need healing and is crying for attention more quickly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu says Nigeria is taking a significant step towards a sustainable and eco-friendly future by introducing a pioneering initiative to deploy a fleet of 100 electric buses. The president spoke at a high-level meeting with stakeholders and investors on the Nigeria carbon market and electric buses rollout program on Saturday in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, on the margins of the COP28 climate summit. President Tinubu explained that the strategic initiative is aimed at significantly reducing Nigeria's carbon footprint and modernizing the country's transportation system as part of a larger effort to position Nigeria in Africa as the pioneers. To spearhead this transformative plan, the president announced the appointment of the executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, Mr. Zach Adedeji, and the Director General of the National Council on Climate Change, NCCC, Mr. Dahiru Salisu, to co-chair the Nigerian Carbon Market Activation Plan.
You will help the productivity level by ensuring that we can guarantee the risk in every way possible. The local manufacturing, the demand is there, and the opportunity, whether it's limited or not, until you start it, you never can say. The government is open for this business. We are reforming as we go along. All the power, web and hindrances being removed. So, to all of you present here, potential investors and other businesses, I give you the assurance that the government is in for this for a long haul.
African leaders at the ongoing United Nations COP28 in the United Arab Emirates have called on developed countries to show commitment in fulfilling their promises on climate mitigation. In their separate presentations, they believe that the African continent is vulnerable to climate change, despite the fact that its contribution to global warming remains insignificant. Musa Baba Aliyu has more.
It is a day 2 of the United Nations COP28.
To welcome His Excellency.
And world leaders are making presentations on their effort in reducing emissions and investments in renewable energy.
We welcome the first
African leaders made individual presentations, but maintain one voice as they echo the need for developed countries to assist developing nations. For instance, President William Ruto of Kenya challenged the world to install clear and actionable roadmaps that will turn Africa into a green powerhouse.
Studies indicate that droughts are now at least 100 times more likely in parts of Africa than they were in pre-industrial era. This translates into a dramatic reduction in long-term rainfall, while short-term rainfall patterns remain erratic and unpredictable.
Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo and that of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu Hassan, emphasized that activities that cause climate change are having negative impacts on the African continent.
I therefore encourage our international partners to support the V20 Loss and Damage Fund, the Global Shield Against Climate Risk, and ultimately the UNFCCC Loss and Damage Fund to ensure the availability of robust social safety nets for the developing world during such climate crises.
Other speakers from Gambia, Zimbabwe, South Sudan, among other African leaders, demand that the United Nations should ensure that the resolutions of COP28 are adhered to by all member countries. Vice President of the United States pledged for a $3 billion support to developing nations under the Green Climate Fund,
which helps developing countries invest in resilience, clean energy, and nature-based solutions. Today, we are demonstrating through action how the world can and must meet this crisis.
Environmental challenges affecting Africa as a result of climate change include drought, flood, soil degradation, and pollution. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
And joining us now via Zoom from Dubai is Dr. Mustafa Lamode, Executive Director, Health, Safety, Environment and Community, to speak on the proceedings at COP28. Doctor, how are you doing? Can you please help us put in perspective the proceedings so far at the COP28 going on in Dubai?
Thank you, and good evening, viewers. It's for the Nigerian delegation. It's led by Mr. President himself. You had Mr. President speaking. We actually try to key in to the agenda of Mr. President. But importantly, what came out from day 1 and 2 of the proceeding of COP28 is the pledge by the United Arab Emirates of $100 million to the Loss and Damage Fund. And so what that means is that, countries like Nigeria, in trying to decarbonize and also meet the objective of attaining net zero by 2060, can actually key into this fund, in some of our initiatives. And majorly, as Mr. President mentioned, we're looking at, providing clean cooking fuel for our teeming mass population. And also, we're looking at also decarbonizing our transportation system, using both utilizing gas which has been adopted as a transition fuel for the country, or electrical vehicles, as mentioned by Mr. President.
Okay, Doug, gas flaring contributes, to emissions. How far has this, come? Has it actually featured in the ongoing conversation as at COP28?
So this has been featuring, prominently in the previous talks, and definitely it will be a major part of the conversation in this COP28. But in Nigeria, we started something very well. I think what that entails here in Nigeria is for us to monetize, the flared gas. So there's a program initiative of the federal government, which is the gas flare commercialization program, which is being championed by our sister agency, regulatory agencies like the NTAi where I work, NUPRC. They've done the technical and commercial bid, and I think player side has been awarded to about 42 contractors. And we in the NMDPR, we have the midstream and downstream gas infrastructure fund, that actually bids and provide equity to contractors and to projects like this. And we're ready, and we've started conversation with about 2 of these contractors, to actually monetize this gas, to actually own most of the flare sites. So we're doing very well when it comes to our objective of completely eliminating gas flaring by 2030.
Okay, Doc. Nigeria requires actually over $500 billion to meet its net zero target. How is this, achievable? And of course, what sort of investment is this attracting?
So looking at it from the context of oil and gas industry, and as I mentioned that we need, we've adopted, gas which is most cleaner, has less carbon intensity as our transition fuel, and gas actually can be used, to move the country, to other renewables. So we need a lot of infrastructure. Most of the gas are produced, in stranded field, but we need to evacuate this gas, to where they are needed, whether the gas-based industry, gas to people, or gas to power as it is. So a lot of the infrastructure when it comes to, pipeline development, if you talk about LPG cylinder manufacturing, LPG facility, we're talking about CNG, the presidential CNG initiative, is ongoing, and we need more and broader CNG filling stations. So a lot of investment needs to come. And I've said we have the NTAi, but NTAi fund actually cannot cut up all the investments. So we're looking at private sector investment. We're looking at development finance institutions here, and both in Africa and here. So the country is actually open for business, and the missing value chain of the oil and gas industry actually, is looking for investment. I think it's the frontier of investment when it comes to the oil and gas industry.
Dr. Mustafa Lamode, Executive Director, Health, Safety, Environment and Community. Thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having me.
Meanwhile, more than 20 countries called for the tripling of world nuclear energy capacity at an UN climate talks on Saturday as part of efforts to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Over now to Justin Ben-Moyi for details.
A declaration endorsed by nations ranging from the United States to Ghana to Japan and several European countries said nuclear energy plays a key role in reaching the goal of carbon neutrality. The use of nuclear energy as a cleaner alternative to fossil fuels is controversial as environmental groups are concerned about safety and the disposal of nuclear waste.
This is existential. It is existential. This is as serious a threat as there is on the planet today, without diminishing one iota what is happening in Ukraine or what is happening in Gaza.
And we know that nuclear has a critical role to play in the energy transition today, not just to meet the demand for secure, reliable and cheap electricity, but also to keep net zero firmly in our sights as we decarbonise power.
I want here to reiterate the fact that nuclear energy is a clean energy, and it should be repeated. The IPCC says it is 4 times less carbon intensive than gas, for instance, and equivalent to wind. Second, nuclear energy is also a stable and pilotable form of energy, which means that it is a perfect complement to renewables.
Never ever, in more than 70 years of commercial nuclear operation, we've had heads of state and government coming together and saying why they are doing this. And perhaps the immense challenge we have in front of us as convinced us that we had to do it.
The aim is to triple nuclear energy capacity by 2050 from 2020 levels. The other countries which signed up to the declaration include Britain, Bulgaria, Canada, the Czech Republic, Finland, France, Hungary, South Korea, Moldova, Mongolia, Morocco, the Netherlands, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Sweden, Ukraine, and the United Arab Emirates. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International. Time for a breather. The news returns shortly.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International. Your window to the world.
Glad to have you back. The African Development Bank, the African Union Commission, AUC, and International Organization for Migration have signed a protocol agreement for $3.9 million in grant financing to strengthen investment, human capital, and philanthropic engagement from the diaspora in 8 African countries. The agreement was signed in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The tripartite funding and implementation agreement will support the streamlining of diaspora engagement to catalyze private investments and entrepreneurship for enhanced resilience as the E4R project. The target countries are the Gambia, Liberia, Madagascar, Mali, Somalia, South Sudan, Togo, and Zimbabwe. The project will assist recipient countries to identify the best methods for effectively mobilizing the human and financial capital of the diaspora, either to support socio-economic development by reviving the domestic private sector, or recovery from political or humanitarian crisis by leveraging the expertise and networks of diasporan groups. In addition to governments of the 8 target countries, the project is expected to have 10,000 direct beneficiaries and 40,000 indirect beneficiaries in communities affected by climate change, conflict, other humanitarian and environmental disasters. The bank approved the SDE4R project on 4th of July 2023 with funding from its Transition Support Facility, TSF. The International Organization for Migration will implement the project over 3 years with strategic oversight, guidance, and advisory from the African Union Commission. Nigerian delegation to ECOWAS Parliament has presented its country report to the second ordinary session of the 2023 holding in Abuja, focusing on addressing security challenges in the country. ECOWAS Parliament correspondent Mohammed Rabiu Ali reports that 2 other countries of Cape Verde and Senegal followed suit in presenting their report.
The Nigeria's report, which was presented by Representative Linda Chuba Ikpeazu, outlined the country's progress in the areas of politics, security, economy, and human rights. On the security situation of the country, the report highlighted the challenges posed by insecurity in Nigeria, including the Boko Haram insurgency, the rise of criminal gangs in the southeast region, and the threat of secessionist movements, affirming President Tinubu's commitment to security.
ECOWAS, under the Nigerian leadership, will push for harmonization of regional security efforts. A harmonized effort will be geared towards mutually linked security goals, given the transnational nature of the threats. Non-military peace efforts will take priority over an overly militarized approach to security. A military approach has had the unintended effect of protracted armed conflicts across West Africa.
Cape Verde and Senegal reports also centered on politics, civil liberty, promotion of women's rights, freedom of expression, and social inclusion, among others.
Taking into account the spirit of peace and unity which prevails in the country.
The government wants to increase the tax base to collect more tax revenue, which currently accounts for 22% of GDP.
During the plenary, 2 members from Guinea-Bissau were sworn in to the ECOWAS Parliament.
Honourable members, I submit the 3 reports. for adoption by plenary. Adopted.
In Abuja, Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
The National Land Development Agency, NALDA, under the presidency, expects food prices to crash following the bumper harvest being recorded in the country. The agency says it has also commenced harvests on farms under its supervision in Benue, Nasarawa, Niger, and Oyo states. Musa Aliyu reports.
This is a combined harvester harvesting rice in Boko local government area of Benue State. The 150 hectares was cultivated under the federal government agency for Land Agricultural Development Authority. Youth working on the farms told me that the adoption of good agronomic practices and mechanization farming resulted in the bumper harvest. A similar achievement was recorded in Bauchi and Niger states. The maize output was encouraging, with more than 100 youths engaging in maize cultivation in Kwakuti, Paikoro local government area of Niger state.
When during planting, during chemical application, and during fertilizer application, to this stage you are seeing, we have engaged hundreds of youths.
In Bauchi state, farmers trained by NALDA believe that the bumper harvest has attracted the interest of processors in the community.
A very bright future ahead using mechanized farming, because we will be able to cover a very, very wide land in a very short period of time.
Executive Secretary of the authority, Paul Ikone, said the agency established farms in collaboration with the private and public institutions to achieve food security in the country. He explained that harvest will boost the nation's grain supply with ripple effects on value chains downstream that produce poultry, feeds, and other household products. Musa Aliyu, NTA News.
Songhai farming model, in which organic fertilizer is used in the cultivation of crops, vegetables, and technical expertise provided to farmers, has been adopted by the federal government in its integrated farming scheme to boost food production. Osman Zubairu reports that the scheme was inaugurated by the Minister of State for Water Resources and Sanitation in Keta village area of Goroyo local government in Sokoto State during a familiarization tour.
The Songhai Integrated Farming Scheme is designed to revive agricultural production through the use of cost-effective means to boost food production in the country. The farm project modeled at Keta village in Gore local government consists of production, processing, research, enterprises, animal husbandry, fisheries, and is expected to serve as a training center. Minister of State for Water Resources and Sanitation Bello Muhammad Gunayu, who inaugurated the center at Keta village in Gore local government Sokoto State, says the farm is established to rebound the agricultural sector, ensure national food security, and create job opportunities in line with the President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda.
For this community to make the best use of this facility so that we can replicate it elsewhere.
During the tour, the minister and his team inspected rehabilitation of emergency spillway at Goronida, irrigation project at Minanaka, Takakumi, and Keta Dais, where he was briefed by the project manager, who says the scheme will provide 1,307 hectares of irrigable land if completed. At Shagari Dam and its surrounding irrigation scheme, he expressed dismay at the state of the facilities there. He directed the Management Secretary River Basin Development Authority to take urgent action to resuscitate the facilities at the irrigation site.
I'm surprised to see that nothing is happening here. We thought it would be a success story that we would tell Nigerians, particularly our farmers.
Earlier, the Minister of State had interactive meeting with the staff and union of the Sokoto River Basin Development Authority. Osman Zubairu, NTA News.
Empowering adolescents and youths in the fight against HIV and AIDS will yield increased results as the world draws closer to UN target of ending HIV/AIDS. This dominated discussions at the National Symposium on HIV prevention models for adolescents and young people in Nigeria. Let's join Basi Eta Ebang for the report.
Youth engagement in HIV research policy and implementation is generally recognized as essential, but often neglected in practice. This symposium brought together stakeholders, partners, and experts in the field of adolescent and young people's health and HIV and AIDS prevention.
You have a symposium like this where you invite youths, adolescents and young person to actually have a voice to tell us what they want. It's not just us designing strategies. We work with them to design the strategies.
Currently, the youth needs prevention because as a population with high risks and also as a population with poor health-seeking behavior, preventing them is very paramount.
Organized by National Agency for the Control of AIDS, the National Symposium on HIV Prevention Models for Adolescent and Young People was supported by USAID in collaboration with Heartland Alliance and John Snow Incorporated to serve as a platform for knowledge sharing on best practices and models for young people in the context of HIV and AIDS.
Technical support to ensure that interventions that are designed and funded by donor agencies are designed in a way that is to the benefit of Nigerians and ensure that the target population, including people living with HIV/AIDS, key population groups, adolescents and young people, are specially attended to be able to meet their.
This is in response to the call to ensure communities take the center stage in HIV response. Basi Taikbang, NTA News.
Let's now check the weather prospect for Sunday in Nigeria and other world cities. And that's the news. Thanks for watching. Do have a good night.